All right, I need a couple, well, probably one reader. Chapter 15 is shorter than 14, I believe. Who would like to volunteer? All right, deal. Better read fast. Just kidding. Deuteronomy 15, yep.
At the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor shall release what he has lent to his neighbor. He shall not exact it of his neighbor, his brother, because the Lord's release has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may extract, but whatever of yours is with your brother, your hand shall release. For there will be no quarrel. The Lord your God will bless you as he promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall rule over many nations, but they shall not rule over you. If among you one of your brothers should become poor in any of your towns within your land that the Lord your God has given you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand against your poor brother, but you shall open your hand to him and lend him sufficient for his needs, whatever it may be. Take care lest there be an unworthy thought in your heart, and you say, the 7th year, the year of release is near, and your eye look grudgingly on your poor brother, and give him nothing. And he cries to the Lord against you, and you be guilty of sin. You shall give to him freely, and your heart shall not be grudging when you give to him, because for this the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake. For there will never cease to be poor in the land. Therefore I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, and to the poor in your land. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, you shall serve him 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty-handed. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress. As the Lord your God is blessing, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this day. But if he says to you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your household, since he is well off with you, then you should take an awl and put it through his ear into the door, and he shall be your slave forever. And to your female slave you should do the same. It shall not seem hard to you when you let him go free from you, for at half the cost of a hired worker he has served you 6 years. The Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. All the firstborn males that are born of your herd and flock you shall dedicate to the Lord your God. You should do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You shall eat it, you and your household, before the Lord your God, year by year, at the place that the Lord will choose. But if it has any blemish, if it is lame or blind, or has any serious blemish whatever, you shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God. You shall eat it within your towns. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it as though it were a gazelle or a deer. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water.
Thanks. All right. A lot of rules, a lot of 7th day this, release that, except for the foreigner. Sorry, foreigners. And don't hold your stuff against your brother. Be free giving things to those who you release in the 7th year. What is ultimately the theological point of chapter 15? What is God interested in the Israelites not doing? I have one.
What is that? Just like no longer great.
And we're done. What's the overall point? I'll prompt you with this. God led Israel out of what? Slavery. Pharaoh was over Israel. Was Israel ever going to be released by Pharaoh? No, unless what happened to them? They die. That's the only way you're going to get released. Pharaoh had no desire to give them what they needed. They were a means to an end. They were to prop up Pharaoh's glory. They were there to prop up the glory of Egypt and really to prop up the gods that were over Egypt. When God led them out of slavery, one of the primary emphases that God wanted to teach Israel through his salvific works is that Pharaoh and everything about him, Egypt, is slavery and the god of death. I am the God of life. I am the God of freedom. I am the God of an easy yoke. I am the God that will give you all that you need so that none of you will be lacking anything. And my glory, I am reflected in your glory, right? So the more that I give you and you glorify me, the more that God is glorified, the more I am glorified. So God is interested in Israel being a people of freedom, not of slavery. So you have these rules and you have these 7 days. We understand like the 7th day is symbolizing. It is a recapitulation of what God has done, is leading them out and their supplication on God's provision and not the provision of their own hands. So going back to earlier in Deuteronomy, when Moses is teaching us not to rely and warning us, hey, if you rely on the land and what the land is giving you and not Yahweh, you're going to go back into slavery. You're going to enslave one another again. Because who plants the seeds in the vineyards? People do, right? Animals do, people do. And what do you tend to rely on, especially when things are going well, or you have hands that meet your quotas and you have a lot of prosperity through the hands and the servants that you have? Do you tend to want to release them and let them have freedom and let them just go? Or do you want to make sure that your vineyard is successful and it is that your vineyard is glorified? What do you tend to do? Yeah, you hold on what you have. God wants to make it very clear that it's not the servants that you have or those that will come under you that you're over, that are over your vineyards, that are taking care of your things. They're not ultimately the ones that are giving you prosperity. God is. I am the one. Okay, you sow the seed, you water the seed, but who gives the growth? Yahweh gives the growth. And what this is avoiding is a reliance on each other to garner prosperity for one another through the toils of you and me. Instead of relying on God, this is where we start taking advantage of one another rather than actually providing for one another. You notice that it opens up and says, there will be no poor in the land. It's a very important statement because when God gives Israel the land, who is it for? Is it only for a select elite group? Is it only for the Benjamites? Is it only for Joshua's tribe? Is it only for the Levites? No, everyone is getting the prosperity of the land. There are no poor, which is a fascinating statement because just a couple sentences later, he's going to say, there's always going to be poor. It's like, wait, what? That there's not going to, I thought you just said there isn't going to be any poor. Well, how is there not going to be any poor? This is where we see the combination of love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. Because if we actually see one another as being provided by Yahweh, and we all have equal, in that sense, equal access, and we have the gift of the land together, then there isn't the poor guy and there isn't the rich guy. There isn't the godly elite and then the godly pleb. And you have this caste system where he's like, okay, well, you're just this, and I'm up here, and you sow my seeds, and I command you, and that's just how this relationship works. Now, there are different roles that we see in Israel. People are going to do different things, and we are going to have those that are in need. There's going to be those who are poor in the land, and what is God's command? What do we do with those that are in need? Do we judge them first? We think, well, you know what? You mishandled your money, and so my prosperity is off limits to you. It's not even broken down why these people became poor. It's probably assumed that they somewhere mismanaged their money, or maybe their crops for whatever reason didn't pan out, or there was tragedy in the family, deaths or something like that. and they're in this state. And God says, yeah, if they're poor, because they're fellow inheritors of everything that I have given you, you take care of them as if they're not poor. They're going to have everything they need, and they're not going to lack anything. And of course, we see this like servanthood relationship where those might be sold or come under the authority of a family working for them for a certain amount of time. But even then, right, there's the threat, right? The threat is you have this poor family. They come under this other family that hires them, or they're sold to them, and so they're working. And so there's the temptation to now see them as, instead of fellow inheritors, actually more like property, more like Pharaoh saw Israel and Egypt. Now, like take that and expand it to the church, because this is obviously part of God's character and the moral attributes of God that continue through both covenants. Do you think we as Christians have the same threat for one another, to look down on one another, to have the quote unquote Christian elite? We're judging the poor. We're saying, well, you know what, you got in this circumstance, you need to get yourselves out of it. Or that we assign certain people in the congregation as they're the poor people, and I'm going to use them as I deem necessary, and that's kind of all they're worth. Maybe not seeing them as fellow full inheritors of what Christ has purchased for each and every individual that's in the body. Absolutely, that's the threat. The threat was then, the threat is now. And did Israel ultimately heed Moses's warning, and did they heed what was written in Deuteronomy? Well, no, they don't. Some scholars say that they didn't even really do this every seventh year thing. That it was kind of I don't know. It would be good to do it, but you know, practically it's just not really helpful. It's not good to let those servants go on the seventh year, because man, my books look really good. And again, instead of relying on Yahweh, we rely on the land and whatever I can get out of you. You're the one that's going to give me the prosperity. Yahweh will maybe give me the rain. We'll make sure that Yahweh's happy, so that we have the natural elements that will allow these things to grow. But ultimately, at the end, we stop caring about one another and care about how much we can get from one another. And again, the heart that's after Yahweh cares about the neighbor first, and him second. And you notice that even when he's talking about those that have much and those that have little, there's never really any discussion about how much the rich man should have. It's really more like, hey, whatever you have, if you have much, it needs to be given to those that have little. Like you need to prop up those that are really not as quote unquote well off materially, or what looks like on the outside, that are not being blessed by the land as you would see like materially. And so you become that blessing. You have that portion of the land. Okay, you're a fellow heir. You're going to get that portion of the inheritance as well. Here you go. And that is, that is the mindset, and that's the ultimate or overall theology of chapter 15. Is don't make one another slaves. And think about like when Paul talks about the slavery to sin, because he's alluding and back to this idea of slavery under Pharaoh. That's what sin is. Sin is a harsh master. It only takes, it never gives. And you even have statements in the New Testament where Paul says, hey, if you're a Christian master and you have slaves, remember those slaves are fellow heirs with you. Don't treat them harshly. Don't become pharaohs. Each one of us can become a pharaoh to somebody else. We can be over them, and we can be harsh taskmasters, and we can not care about them, but care about, again, what we can get out of them, or how we can minimize them so we can raise ourselves higher. But that's what sin does. It's a master that will take advantage of you. We've been released from that master to Jesus Christ, which is the easy yoke, right? The light and easy yoke. And now and this is what kindness, we go, going back to 1 Peter, when he talks about the Lord, you've tasted his kindness. We tend to think kindness is like being nice. That's not what kindness is. Kindness is, you don't have to wonder what his motives are. If I go up to somebody and I ask him something and he responds to me, someone who's kind is someone who I know will give me an honest answer. And actually, I know that whatever they say is for my good. That's a kind person. They're not going to distort God to me. They're not going to take advantage of me. They're going to give me truth. And sometimes that truth is harsh. And sometimes that truth doesn't sound nice, but they are kind. So we leave Pharaoh, who is not kind, distorts God, distorts you, takes advantage of you. We're released to Yahweh, the master who is kind, who has your good ultimately at heart, will never lead you astray, will never take you down a wrong path. His path is illuminated and it leads to life. And since we have a master who is kind, ultimately that is who we are to one another. We've tasted that kindness, and now we need to be that kindness to one another. So therefore, we don't treat one another as a caste system in that sense. We are equal heirs in Christ, and whatever is somebody's lacking, because there's going to always be poor, just like Deuteronomy says, and Christ even says that in the New Testament. The poor will always be among you. But the paradox is, should there ever be poor in the body of Christ? We would say, well, no, right? That inheritance is freely given to all. Now, I guess the interesting thing is in the new covenant, what we have of the land now is the church, right? We don't have the consummation yet, so I can't go down to like the new heavens and new earth Smiths and give you all of the blessings that Christ has purchased, right? Part of that land, or part of that blessing and inheritance that we have right now, is this. So this is where we're going to be giving to one another. This is where the poor will be lifted up. This is why we wait during communion to make sure that the poor are able to eat, and we're not rushing to this is why we say, ladies first, women first, children first. It's kind of reflecting that widows and orphans are the ones that are eating first. We're lifting them up. We're giving the first portion of our harvest to those that need it, and therefore they leave with more food than we ate that night. The poor, like we do, and I think we've seen this in our church many times, where we're giving those who we know need the food. Half of that buffet is going with somebody else. And maybe maybe we had a couple bites of stuff and we're good, but we are giving the inheritance that we've been given that way as the church. That's how we're involved in the land right now, waiting for everything to be renewed, so that what Deuteronomy says will be true. There will be no poor in the land anymore, ever. So yeah, that's the overall theology of chapter 15. Brian, do you have some other insights?
Yeah, just to jump off a little bit of what you said there. So some scholars will translate that there should be no poor in the land. You can do that with the imperfective. But what Drake was saying is that God is saying it, and I think I would agree that God is saying there will be no poor in the land, meaning you will not allow it to happen that there are poor in the land. However, the poor are always going to be with you. Why? Because you're not going to be obedient. There's that kind of background idea that if you're obedient, I'll bless you. And by the way, don't worry about setting this guy free. Don't worry about like dedicating your firstborn animals to me. Don't worry about it. I'm going to prosper you so that you can do it. But whatever you do, and if you look in the chapter in the Hebrew, the entire chapter is emphatic. So in Hebrew, you'll have like an infinitive and an imperfective put together. And whenever that happens, like for instance, like with the adultery law, someone who commits adultery, it says, You will kill through killing this person. What it actually means in Hebrew is you will absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, there's no other alternative, you are to put those people to death, period. Well, throughout this chapter, you have the same thing. You will absolutely set this person free. If you were lend money to the poor, you will absolutely give money generously to this poor person. You will absolutely do it. So these are commands that are given throughout, and they're commands. We think that giving, we're being like some sort of like beneficent, people who are taking care of, oh, well, I'm giving to you. It's like, no. You're commanded to give. That's like being like, oh, you know what? I'm an extra special person because I didn't murder anyone today. And it's like, no. You're commanded not to murder. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. Now, how much you give, that's up to you, right? Like that's your decision. Now here it's not. Here God's like saying this is what you're going to give. But in terms of actually taking care of people or whatever and lending and all that sort of thing, and even forgiving the debt, notice it's if you lend and don't say to yourself, if you're in the 6th year, hey, next year's the 7th year, I could lose all my money. I won't get my money back. God's like, don't do that. You're not to be afraid. He actually uses the word, don't be afraid in your mind, in your thoughts to lend to the person. And by the way, when you lend to them, don't be upset about it. So it's not just that you lend to them, or give them money or something, or let them go as your slave, it's where you're losing financially. You're actually to do it in a way to where you do it joyfully because you're gladly obeying the Lord in that regard. Think about, should there be any Christian poor? Now, this is Israel. Remember, Israel has the promise. We're not promised that God's going to prosper us. We're not Israel in that regard. We're not under the old covenant. We're not the Deuteronomic covenant. We're actually promised suffering. And we're actually promised that a lot of us are going to be poor. But as Drake was saying, we're not the shadow that is Israel. Israel's a shadow of what? We talked about this last week. No, not the church. New heavens, new earth. The church is the new heavens and new earth. So we're not the shadow, we're the thing. And so we have the already part of that thing. So you have everything, all riches spiritually, all blessings, all riches. You have all access to God the Father. You have all the honor and all the favor that Jesus Christ has is given to you. So all those riches are yours. One day, Jesus is going to take all the physical stuff too, and then that will be yours. But right now, it's not. So now it's a matter of stewardship, and it's looking to your brethren and saying, okay, as Drake was saying, kindness is actually like providing for the need of someone. Like there's that verse in Romans everybody abuses with God. Well, God, it says that he causes people to repent through kindness. And that means you have to be really, really nice to people. And if they don't like you, then, that's not really doing what God wants you to do. It's like, no. The chapter is saying God is being kind to you by providing you more time so you can repent. Because if you don't repent, then you're actually storing up the wrath of God toward yourself. That's actually what Romans 2 says. Kindness is that. It's looking toward the need of another. It's loving one another because the new heavens, new earth is love. Because God is love, because it's his place. There is no hate in it. There is no evil in it. There's no sin in it. There's nothing but prosperity there. We're to be those people now. So God prospers some, but because the poor will always be with you, he tests those of you who he prospers. Because the way God does it is not, I'm going to shower resources on everybody that belongs to me. That's not the way he does it. He does it by, I'm going to shower resources on some of the people, and I'm going to make the rest poor. And the way I want the poor to get the resources that I showered on these people is I want these people to obey me and give it to these people. That's how he does it. Like, I hate the fact when people are like, oh, you need something. You know what? We'll pray about that. It's like, okay, well, if you're poor, that's all you can do. You can pray. That's great. If you have resources, don't say you're going to pray about it. God already commanded you what you're to do, which is to give. liberally, generously, absolutely, and not expect it back. So here's my question that I asked before. Would there be any poor Christians in America if the mega churches, if the health and wealth churches, if all these supposed Christians who are dumping money into a billion different places, but not into the pockets of actual Christians, would there be any poor Christians? No. And look at the mega churches. Is there a command here to build giant buildings and have lots and lots of pizza parties and programs and do this and that? No. But it attracts people. It's nice to have. It's a community center in that way. That's great. But it disobeys the Lord, because I guarantee there's a lot of people, a lot of Christians that they even know of that are not being taken care of. Instead, what happens is that they donate generically to things in the world, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they maybe throw a gift card at someone. I got to tell you, as someone who's been poor, throwing a gift card and then feeling like you've completed your obligation to the poor is not very helpful, because that poor person has an electric bill, a water bill, all these bills, gas money, all this stuff that he can't pay for every single month, not just one time. And people, in order to, I really think it's not in obedience to the Lord. It's to make ourselves feel better. It's the reason why you walk past a homeless man and you're like, you don't give a rip about the homeless man. You're walking past him. You're doing that because you feel bad. You feel like, oh, people are going to think I'm not a good person because I'm not giving. I need to act like I give some, or maybe if I have $1, oh, here's $1 or whatever. Are you helping the homeless guy by giving him $1? Now, who are you to give to? This is part of the problem. Is I have known tons of Christians who just give to pagans. They give to their pagan families. They give to their pagan charities, like everybody else. They give to different things, and it's not that I would say, oh, those are absolutely wrong to give to, but I do think it is often wrong. No, is there a distinction between people in this chapter? You may not pick it up. Like, again, if you're reading Hebrew, you pick it up really clearly. Is there a distinction? Now Drake is real clear, and he's right. There's no distinction within the people of God. They're all treated the same. Is there a distinction between who you give to here, though? What you do, like what slaves you can actually like release and don't release? Who are the people that you can go ahead and hold on to? You don't need to release them. Yeah, what kind of foreigner? Because we hear foreigner all the time, right? Like, there's foreigners living among them. That's the Hebrew word ger. That's not what the word is here. The word ger is like when you see like sojourner or resident alien, whatever your translation is translated. That's a guy who's not ethnically Israelite, but he worships Yahweh, and therefore he's part of the covenant. That's not who this is. This is the Nachri. The Nachri is the pagan, the foreigner, the guy who is not an Israelite, and he does not worship Yahweh. He's not a worshiper of Yahweh. That person you can go ahead and hold on to. You don't need to lend to that person. That your resources are not for that person. The land that God has provided them and all the produce from it is not for that person. And I don't know, again, you'd have to kind of read Hebrew to pick this up, but the very first thing, so it's usually saying, he's contrasting the Nachri, the pagan, with your brother, your ach. But he uses a different word at the beginning of the chapter. Did you look at this at all?
The foreigner?
No, the different word for brother. So it's exegetical. So he says this word and then brother. You know what the word is? It's the word we translate neighbor. It is the neighbor. And the neighbor, of course, is not the pagan, as so many Christians try to argue. That's not a biblical idea. There's a reason why Jesus says, you will not throw your pearls before swine. Do not give what is holy to dogs. What is swine? What does a swine represent? Yeah, people who are unclean. What does a dog represent? Like, remember how David calls Goliath a dog and all that? Or does Goliath call David a dog? I forget what it is. But Gentiles are usually, pagans are usually viewed as dogs. They're people who are outside the covenant. So what is Jesus saying there? What's the command that Jesus is giving there? So many people interpret that as, well, you know, if people are gonna like respond badly to your preaching the gospel and truths to them, don't preach the gospel and truths to them. Is that what Jesus is saying? Don't preach then he disobeyed his own command, like throughout his entire ministry. Is that what that means? Don't throw your pearls before swine. What do pearls represent in scripture? Wealth, your resources, what is holy, that is what is actually to be given to God and his people, is not to be given to the pagan. You are disobeying the Lord by doing so. Don't do it. And yet the church is busy, and I've seen tons of Christians who are rich make themselves feel good by giving to this charity over here, and then they've got poor Christians right in front of them that they don't take care of. It needs to be done out of love. If we do it out of love, then I'm going to look at the person in front of me. And I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take care of that person. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to be like, well, they really should just work it for themselves, or that whole thing I've heard so many people say. But then you want to kind of like appease your conscience, so you got to get to something. So it's like, oh, March of Dimes. I'll just give to March of Dimes or something. It's like, is March of Dimes around anymore? I don't know. That was in the 80s, but yeah, exactly. It's the March of Dollar Bills. We don't get this. That like, it's not just that you need to give your resources to those who are poor in the covenant community when they need it. You need to spend your money in such a way so that you have it to give to them. I've said this before. Look, I've taught this whole time, right? I've got a lot of flack from people. I had one guy come back at me. It's like, you're telling me if a homeless pregnant mother comes up to you and asks you for money, even just because she's not a believer, you're not going to give her money? And I said, yeah, because I'm thinking of the homeless pregnant woman who is a believer that I need to give money to. Like, this sort of emotional nonsense, it's not an argument. Don't give emotional arguments. It's a logical fallacy. Every person in need that I see that's an unbeliever, there is another one who's a believer that I need to give to. And frankly, maybe the devil sends you that person to test you, whether you're going to obey the Lord or not, there, to get rid of your money. So then when the Christian comes along, you don't have anything to give them. And the devil bankrupts the people of God over it. Or churches spend it on their buildings and their programs. I can't tell you, like, and I love the people there, and I love the pastor there, and all of that. But when Allison and I were in Pennsylvania, we went to this Baptist church. We were dirt poor. I mean, poor. That's when I first got sick, lost my job. We had absolutely nothing. And, you know, they gave us like a gift card for food, even though like we didn't need it. The state's good for food, people. If you're poor, that's the only thing the state actually does that is helpful. It doesn't, anything else like housing. No, forget it. You're not going to get good housing. But food is good. But that was it. That's all we ever got. And they were busy building $1 million building, which frankly, I don't think they really needed. But they had gone to 2 services or whatever. And again, I love the people, and I'm not trying to like cast blame on them. I'm just saying, like, this is a common thing that I've seen over and over and over again in churches, to where their concerns about building my little kingdom here and having buildings and programs and throwing all your money into extra pastors that aren't really pastors. They're like, you know, pastor of church recreation and pastor of toiletries. And it's like, what in the world? They're throwing their money out. And then when they give to churches actually do give to charities, or they have food pantries, they give it out to pagans. And it's no wonder that we have so many poor Christians in America, the richest country, frankly, that I think has like ever been. Like no community of Christians has ever been as rich as we are. I can't think of one throughout history. Like we are just rich. Our poor people are rich. It's ridiculous. And I get it. Like it hurts. It hurts to give. We don't want to do it. But it's because we self-love, right? Like I have a bunch of stuff that I just want to buy for me. And I don't want to give. And normally I wouldn't say this because I don't think you should let your right hand know what your left hand is doing or whatever. But like, just so you know, your pastors do give. I give a massive chunk this month that really hurt a lot. But to Nigerian Christians who are in a world of hurt far more than we have ever seen. And they've lost everything. And I can't just not give and let Christians do that. But frankly, we do that because we get in this rut to where we just ignore it. We don't understand that we're the people of the world to come. We are too busy trying to build the world here and our little kingdoms here. And we think we need all our money for here. And, oh, well, what if this happens and that happens? Like if you are afraid to give because you think this scenario or that scenario, the devil's got you. You're never going to give. You're going to give as the Pharisees give. How do the Pharisees? By the way, the Pharisees give money. They give money. How do they give? Out of what? Yeah, their excess. They don't give money that actually is like they're relying on. But it's extra money they have. That's why Christ says they're not really giving anything. Yeah, that's great. I mean, they could buy something extra, but they have everything they need, and they have their security money. So yeah, sure, give out of everything else. I'm not saying give away your needs, but we don't give away our security money. That's what they're not doing. That's what Jesus is saying. Don't have security money when you have believers in need. Because that means your God is your security money. There's a reason why all the believers, and it is all the believers, and it is Christ telling all believers in the gospel to sell all their stuff. He doesn't mean all your necessities. He means all your security stuff, all that property that you had in the back so that you could actually have it for the future and you'd be okay. You never have to worry and never have to be afraid, meaning you never have to rely on God. All that gone. And then follow me. Give it to the poor, follow me. That's the problem with the rich man. The rich man doesn't understand Jesus to be saying, never eat food again. Give it all to the poor. He's not saying that. Never have a shelter. Don't have any clothes. Sell all your clothes that are on you and walk around with me naked. That's not what he's saying. He's telling the rich man, sell all your security stuff. So you're not actually rich anymore. You just have your necessities and that's it. And come follow me. Give it to the poor, come follow me. And that's what he can't do. Is that what you can't do? Then you're him. If that's us, we're him. And no amount of giving to the March of Dimes here and there and throwing $1 at the homeless man is going to cover the fact that you're not obeying the Lord here. I actually think the American church is under the judgment of God, not because we're immoral sexually. I think we're immoral sexually because it's part of the judgment. That's what Romans 1 says. And why are people under that judgment in Romans 1? Because they've turned from the living God and they've made something else God. What else have we made God? Well, we don't worship animals. We've made money our God. And the richer we have become as a nation and as a church, the more immoral and given over to sin we have become. We have been placed under judgment. Look at the state of the church in terms of what judgment looks like. What the number one thing of judgment is that you're going to have the word of God everywhere, but no one's going to understand it. It's going to be water everywhere, not a drop to drink. That's what you have in the American church. And given over to sexual immorality. That's why we're under judgment. Because we have a different God, because we're not obeying this. We're not actually looking and saying, what does it mean to follow Christ? And I don't mean in every other area, but the one that I want. I mean, giving up the thing that you don't want to give up. Throughout the chapter, the reason why I'm emphasizing this is throughout the chapter, he's saying, be very careful not to say in your heart, when it comes to it, to harden your heart towards your brother. What does that mean? What does it mean to harden your heart? What is it? No. Well, you could say to hate him, biblically speaking, but well, okay, so the heart means what in the Hebrew Bible? Mind, thoughts. So in your thinking, you harden your thinking. Meaning, what would that mean? It means, in other words, you, through your own opinion, through your own reasoning skills, through your own, justifications, have set your mind to not give to him because you have really good reasons not to give. Because he did this or that, or he spent money here, or, well, he should have done that. And, well, yeah, but I need it for this. And so I have good reasons, God. Throughout the chapter, he's actually saying, you don't have good reasons. I'm going to provide for you. I have provided for you. I will provide for you. If you trust me, you don't have any good reasons. Give to your brother as I tell you. This is all in response to what we've been talking about, like we talked about last week, was you are to be the people of the world to come. And the people of the world to come are people who worship God truly. They don't have two gods. They don't have God and mammon. This is why when Jesus comes, he's like, you cannot serve both. That's why it's still an issue when Christ comes. And he lays it out in the sermon. He doesn't say, hey, you can't worship God and your girlfriend that you really like, or God and entertainment or whatever. He actually chooses money because it's one of the things that we just don't want to get rid of. It gives us security in this life. It does give you security to some extent. It's an illusion, the Bible says. God could take your life at any moment, and then what good is your money? That's why so many parables are surrounding money. Because Jesus knows this is the devil to you. This is your worship of the devil. The devil will give you all that you want if you just worship him. He offered it to Christ too. Hold on to your stuff. Harden your heart toward your brother. Don't give to him because you're afraid of what might happen to you if you do. That's the devil's argument. And God just says, you're free, people. You are sons and daughters of the living God. You own everything. I've not given you everything yet, but you own everything. You are the apple of God's eye. You will live forever. He who dies, he will yet live. Let go of the temporary stuff. Let go of the money if you have Christians in need. I'm not just saying just to do it. I'm saying if you have Christians in need, let go of it. If you can't, that tells you there's a problem. Do you believe the gospel? Do you believe that this world is passing away and we are the people of the world to come? If you believe that, it should be easy to give it up. If it's hard to give it up, it's because we don't believe. Sorry, that was my 5-minute.
No, I think the last two things I was going to mention. I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but connecting this to the neighbor versus the idea of the neighbor's everyone versus the neighbor being the Christian. It's not just an interpretation issue. We're like, oh well, we interpret it one way. We're going to act this way. You guys interpret it this way. You guys do what you do. But remember what Deuteronomy 15 is attached to. What is it an exposition of? The second commandment, which is what? Yeah. So we're talking about breaking the second commandment by not understanding what this is saying. So if we just say, well, I'm just going to, believe what I always believed about the Good Samaritan and just do that, you are actually breaking the second commandment. You are presenting a false god. This is the idol that's Brian is talking about. And you've duped yourself into thinking that you are doing good. That's the scary part. And there's the judgment, right? And as Brian alluded to, that's probably what is leading to these other judgments is this delusion. But this is directly connected to the Second Amendment, and if you don't get that right, you are breaking it.
Well, and look what Jesus does with the again. This is about money, right? He's like, you take what God told you to do, which is to honor your father and mother, which we could say is actually part of both, really, commandments. But probably in that regard, maybe it's to love your neighbor more that he's emphasizing in that point, because they think they're loving God by giving it to the temple. And it's like, well, God, I gave it over here, though. And it's like, yeah, God doesn't care that you gave it somewhere else. He wanted you to give it to the people he told you to give it to. Which is why this whole neighbor thing, like Drake was alluding to, why it is so important. Why it's not just like, oh, this is one of Brian's idiosyncratic beliefs, where it's like, no, it's a biblical idea. And frankly, it's been done by the church for most of the church age until you get to the Enlightenment. And until then, you had nothing but Christian communities that were given to one another, the early church, and then everybody was a quote-unquote Christian, supposedly. But that's the point, is that if I give the money away to someone else, I can't then obey God and give it to the people he told me to. So it isn't just a matter of, again, like Drake was saying, it's not just a matter of we just have different beliefs. It's like, no, I'm saying you're sinning. You think I'm sinning by not just giving to everybody. I'm like, no, you're sinning by giving away the children's food to the dogs, which is what Jesus says when the woman who is not a believer comes up, or at least she's a pagan, she's not a Jew. She comes up and she's like, hey, can you heal my daughter? And he's like, it's not, he literally says, it's not right. It is not lawful is the word.
Accesting.
Yeah. It is not right, not lawful, not permitted by God for me to give the children's food to the dogs. And it's not until she has faith in him, she receives that rebuke. He's like, yes, Lord, but even the dogs, take the crumbs from their master's table, acknowledges him as the master, that he then says, woman, doesn't call her a dog anymore. Woman, your faith has saved your daughter. Because that's, what does Jesus heal people who don't believe? Is like, no, the scripture says many did not believe. Therefore, he could not perform many miracles there. Why? Because God doesn't give his holy resources to pagans and unbelievers. They belong to people who are in Jesus because all things belong to Jesus. So it's now through Jesus alone that all these things are given as holy. Now, obviously, there's general providence and there's work the image of, we as the image of God, we try to preserve human life and innocent human life and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, that which is holy is for his people. To give it to someone else is absolutely wicked.
The other thing, if you were to take Deuteronomy 15 and put it on an accountant's desk or a Goldman Sachs guy, you're like, oh yeah, build my portfolio based on these principles. He'd look at you and be like, this isn't economically viable. Yeah. What do you mean? You don't hold interest, you give it away. You need to save up for retirement. This doesn't make any sense. You gotta have some kind of safety net. My point is saying, if you look at all the other law codes, if you just read the 10, most of the law codes would say, yeah, that's what we do, and give or take. But now you're when you start digging into it, nobody else is doing what God is telling Israel to do here. This is such a way to be unique in the rest of the world that won't do this. This is absolutely a way to be identified as God's people, to actually impact those around you, either for good or for ill, either for the sense of salvation or for the sense of death for those that are dying. But this is such a way that the church just flushes down the toilet because they just act like everybody else. So they just blend in. This should stick out the church like a sore thumb, as this would have stuck out to the pagan nations as a sore thumb. These guys aren't holding anything. They're just giving it away. They're letting their slaves go. What is this garbage? Except for the pagan foreigner that maybe repents later, and then they become part of the community later. But
if you read this and your first thought is, well, that's impractical.
Yeah.
Well, that's Gnostic. It's like, Oh, okay. Are you arguing with the Bible then? Because we didn't write the chapter.
Yeah.
Like I didn't put the words in Jesus's mouth. We love to ignore that teaching from Jesus. We love it as Americans. Oh, he's just talking to the rich man there. It's not. It's like, why is it in the gospel then if he was just talking to that one guy? Like, what's the point? And then you have this characterization of the early church, and everyone sold their possessions so that no one owned anything, but everyone had things in common. And we're like, oh, that's good for them. That weird thing they did in the first century that we're not going to do. Yeah, it's just like, right. It reminds me of people with the cultural mandate, right? It's the creation mandate. It's like, oh, that's just for Adam and Eve. Yeah, you can, homosexuality is fine now. This is Adam and Eve who needed to produce children and all. It's like, where'd you get that? No, the reason why it's at the beginning is because the beginning is to tell you this is what God actually wants for the rest of it. That's the point of it. So if you have something at the beginning of the church, this is God's ideal. This is what God actually wants for the rest of the church throughout time. And frankly, most of the church throughout time that was faithful did that. But we make excuses because we have too much stuff like the rich man and we don't want to get rid of it. Me either. I'm out. Any questions?
I probably should know this, but I've been thinking about this Deuteronomy and then the fact that we don't keep the law, and yet this is the law, and so
Yep.
you could connect it to.
So we don't keep the Mosaic Law because the Mosaic Law is an entire package. It includes the ritual, the civil code, the moral code, and all of it together. The moral code, however, in it is the eternal character of God. It reflects God's character. Therefore, from the beginning of creation, all throughout, all of God's people are to work toward the character of God and to live accordingly. So this principle of taking care of preserving innocent life, and especially covenant life, God's people, is what God does, part of his character. And so we continue to do that. Whereas, whether or not you eat an eagle or whatever, a crow or whatever it is.
Yes, yeah, I gotta get a little.
Yeah, so those things are shadows of clean and unclean that God, so they're teaching tools. But they're not eternal. Like there's no crows in eternity that God's not eating or whatever it may be. Like he's not eating clean food because God doesn't eat, period. It's not part of his character. So those things are just being used as pictures of holiness, unholiness, pictures of what Christ will do in taking away our uncleanness, all that sort of thing. But they're not moral principles as something like honor your father and mother. Well, would God want you to respect the authorities over you that represent him? Yes. Jesus himself does that when he comes to earth, and he respects his father and mother and God and all of that. So the things that are a part of God's character, those are forever. That's why Paul in 1 Corinthians 8, he'll be like, I'm not under the law, referring to the Mosaic law. Now I'll go ahead and live like I'm under the law when I'm with people who are under the law, but I myself am not under the law. However, I am under the law of God. And it's like, wait, what? And what he means by that is that I'm not under the Mosaic law. However, the character of God, the law of Christ, that is the law of love, the character of God, I am always under that. And we always will be. Because it's who we're to become. It's who he is. God is love. Those who actually worship him, they do so in truth and love and all that. So that's why you have a distinction there. So you have that throughout the Bible, including in the Mosaic covenant, God's character, but not all the Mosaic covenant is God's eternal character.
Some will confuse this and say, well, we need to actually make the nation and enact these exact kind of laws nationally or something like that, which actually ironically would break the commandment because now you're taking care of pagans that may or may not be believing. But that's where the confusion would be, instead of like the moral aspect of it and the character of God being in your heart, and then you're treating the fellow believer like that. We have to just transplant it on a contemporary civil system or something.
It's funny. I didn't mention this, but if you'll notice in the chapter, It says, if you do this thing, no nations will rule over you.
Oh, yeah.
You will rule over all nations.
A lot of people take that.
Now, that's Israel.
Yeah.
That's part of the old covenant. However, people who think there's a one-to-one correspondence that, oh, wait, we need to obey the law and the promises of Israel are us, it's sort of like, okay, well, then stop basically calling everyone names. Stop going around and just trying to become rich and more buff and have, build your portfolio and everything, and realize that if you want to rule over the nations, you need to start giving to the poor. Give all your stuff to the poor. I don't see anybody doing that.
And Christian nationalists.
Yeah, Christian national. Let's go. Give all your stuff to the poor. No, we need to just have conferences, and we need to rally against City Hall and start singing in front of City Hall. I'm not going to wear a mask. And all this great stuff, and then we'll rule nations. And it's like, no, God says here you'll rule nations when you give to the poor among the church. So there's no poor among you or whatever. Now, obviously, I don't think that's a promise to the church. It's to Israel. Israel's a shadow of the world to come, not of the church. That's a problem in that whole thing.
I have another question. By way
Yes,
of
ma'am.
clarification. So I believe all you're saying, and I'm a little unclear, but that's very good explanation. But yeah, we all have family members,
Mhm.
and many of them are unbelievers.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to give to our family members.
It depends what you mean by that. So,
Well, I can give them a Christmas present, I suppose, but if they're kicked out of their apartment and they need a new apartment.
So here's the problem with and this to me is a problem with modern parenting in general. If your kid, let's say they're younger, you want them to take out the garbage, they're in complete rebellion. They're not going to take out the garbage. They're whatever. They're like cursing at you and all that sort of thing. Are you going to go buy them a cake? Are you even going to take care of their, no, let's imagine we don't live in America and they make you take care of your kid. I would actually tell my kid, if you're not going to listen to me, then you can get out of the house. I'm not going to have a child of mine not listen to me. Bye. I've had to do that before.
What age would you?
Well, I usually when they're that way, they're teenagers. They're 17, 18. They're older, right? But you can have a 13, 14-year-old. Now, you can't, again, we have laws to where you can't do that in this country. I'm saying if all things were according to God and not these warped things that don't allow parents to be parents, I'd be like, if you are not going to obey me and honor me, you're not going to partake of me. The reason why you as a child are partaking of me is because you're a part of me. As soon as you cut yourself off from me by denying me, then you're not a part of me anymore. Now, if you are Jesus Christ and that is your life and your kid denies Christ, they're not a part of you. Why are you giving them anything? Because that's what people do, and I feel bad, and they're my kids, and maybe if I do this, they'll become Christians. It's like, no, they'll become Christians when God decides they will become Christians. You can obey God.
What if they end up taking care of you in your old age?
Then you're paying them for a service. You're not actually giving them money. But the thing is that, is it right? Because you don't know. Maybe they get there and they're like, I don't want to do that. And you invested in them because you wanted them to take care of you. Is it right for you to invest in them? I'd be like, no, I don't think it is.
But what if they've already told you, when you get older, I want to take care of you. I want you to come live with me.
Again,
And it's their responsibility to do that, isn't it? Children?
It's the responsibility of children to do that with their parents, yes. The issue becomes, should I give to my children rather than to believers, because I will benefit in the future maybe from giving to those unbelievers. And again, this goes back to, is there any other good reason to give what is holy to dogs, even if they're my children?
So not giving now, but let's say, okay, because both of my kids want me to come live with them, and I'm gonna help them if I go live with them. I'm not gonna be a freeloader. So I'm not giving to them now.
Yeah.
Because they take care of themselves as well.
Well, by giving, you mean that you're just paying them because of the stuff that they're paying for you, that you're just paying for you
I
then.
would help with the food, I would help with.
Right, because they're feeding you
other
food
things
though,
I
right?
enjoy, yes, and I would want to do that. I mean, if I.
I mean, that's
came-
sort of like being like, I'm going to go stay at a hotel, but I'm going to help them out.
If I came
by
in
giving
with
them-
either one of you, I wouldn't just mooch off you. I would help.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm not talking about,
I mean, they're-
I'm not saying that you can't pay unbelievers for services. That's not what I'm saying. But that's what you're talking about. I'm talking about giving to children and finding reasons to give to your children that are not biblical because you just want to give to your children and find reasons for it. That's the problem. If you're just paying for services because your children are, you know, they give you a room and board and all that, then you're just paying for room and board. That's what you're doing. So I mean, that to me, I'm like, yeah, well, you can pay Joe Schmo down the street for room and board. It doesn't matter. You can go buy, you know, a pineapple from Joe Schmo Pagan, or well, he would if you paid him enough. I mean, I'm just saying that, like, I'm just saying there are plenty of people who will do that sort of thing. So those are services. You're talking about services from people, but I have just seen so many people give their wealth to unbelievers. Christian parents give their wealth to unbelievers, and then they might have like one kid who's a believer, and then that kid may get equal share or something. I'm like, it should all go to the kid, or it should all go to the church, or it should go to other believers who are poor, not to your kids who are pagans. They should. In fact, let me just say this: it might be the last final thing that God actually uses to say, "Hey, you know what? If you don't accept Christ, in the same way that you've been cut off from this temporary wealth right here, you're cut off from eternal wealth. You're cut off from the world to come," which is what our wealth represents, which is why Jesus says, "Don't give what is holy to dogs." It represents the wealth of the world to come. Don't give it to unbelievers without them accepting Christ, because what you're communicating to them is that even though I really want you to accept Jesus, God is going to give you all this stuff anyway, because I'm giving you all this stuff. That's what it communicates. Which is why we give it to one another, because that communicates that God has given you the world to come. Here's part of that. I see that you're in need. Here you go. So all I have to say, services, fine. Giving, no. I know that's hard, but
Well, and especially if you don't have enough to go.
well, and we never do. So it literally is a zero-sum game because we don't have infinite wealth. So it really is. You're either going to give your wealth to people, Christians who need it, because there's always Christian poor with you, and they'll be with you till the end. Or you're going to give some of that at least away to people who you shouldn't be giving it to.
Anything else?
Well, like helping
So
people, you know what I'm saying?
your time is, I think, yes, I think all resources, but don't mistake me, because time is a little different. And I would include words and all of this and that, is that it's different with time and words, because part of our job as believers is to look for lost brethren with our time and words. And so now and even resources in terms of money, but not in terms of giving it to unbelievers, but in terms of giving it to people who are doing that. So missionaries, or, you know, Paul's doing it, or whatever, churches who are doing it. It's part of our job to do that as Christians as well. So, but it is still for believers. They're not believers yet, but we're looking for them by preaching the gospel. We preach it to everybody because we don't know who's who. So we're looking for them in that way. But that still is a love for the brethren. It's not a love for pagans. You're actually putting pagans into further judgment by preaching the gospel when they don't believe. So, but you are loving the brethren because you're looking for them that way. And it's clear we look through them through our words. That's going to take time to say and do, and also, you know. Anything else? You got anything else? No? All right.
Do you want me to do it? Father, help us be good stewards of what you've given us. Let's look for ways that we can give to the church. Show us where we're not doing that. Grow us in the mind of Christ. And while this might make us uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable, maybe with the teaching, but with what it means for us, what we have to change about our habits and what we're doing. But give us peace, the peace of the life of Christ and everything that he has purchased for us, and the peace that he gives us in his resurrection and ascension and victory over death. We pray these things in his name. Amen.
Let me say one more thing just to clarify, because this is often. So if you're walking by a guy who's like dying, yes, you do take care of it. Like, give him something to drink, give him something to eat, whatever. Because again, it's part of you preserving innocent human life, and you don't know if that's a brother. He's going to need to live for you to preach the gospel to him in the moment. So I'm not saying, oh no, don't give anybody anything to drink when they're dying of thirst. You're government at that point. You're not just a Christian. If you're the only one by who can actually give that guy a drink, give him a drink. So there's a misunderstanding there that, like, not giving your resources to pagans doesn't mean you don't fulfill your job as the image in a governmental role.
The church was well known for adopting babies that were abandoned.
Yeah.
In the first century.
Well, and they could become believers at that point. So. Yeah.
So I'm in such a pickle.
I would. So here's where I would just say, for caution's sake, to make sure, I would still just give it to your dad, regardless of what he does the money with, because yours is different. Whether your dad is a believer or not, okay, but it doesn't matter for you because you're the kid. Your dad, whether he's a believer or not, represents God. You're to always honor your father and mother. So from the standpoint of a child, what I've said does not count. It's talking like you are to give to your parents and take care of them. He doesn't have the right to tell you to sin. So it's going to be a no on the no. That's like, God has literally said to take care of your parents. So that's a no there. He can't. Then so be it. He probably needs it every month, right? I mean, poor people need it. Again, I would just, to honor your parents is to honor God. To honor Nero is to honor God, not because they are honorable people who believe in God, but because they represent God in their authority. And therefore, we need to do it regardless, even if they're taking advantage of us, just to make sure. I don't want to get on Judgment Day and be like, yeah, you made a bunch of excuses why you didn't take care of your parents. I don't want to hear that. And so I would go above and beyond for your parents. Hear that, kids? I'm just joking. I'm not saying it for my kids, but.
Like, would this be too far if I said, you know, Dad, let me free up your money and like make sure my money goes to rent or whatever.
Yeah, if you want to do it more, anything that's going to take care of him. I mean, I would want to say it in a way that's honoring to him, because again, you want to honor your father. But anything that is going to take care, you can be like, hey, can I help with this and do it more efficiently, and I can actually take your bills and all that sort of thing. Whatever way you want to do it is up to you. But yeah, that's important. I mean, you've heard me say, and I say it every time we talk about giving money to the church. I'm like, if you have obligations to your parents, then you take care of your parents. If you have obligations to your family, take care of your family. Do not give necessities for your family to the church or anywhere else. But that does mean then don't go blow it on Burger King. Don't go blow it on shopping spree. Like I'm saying, we're hurting as a church. Don't give to us financially because you must take care of your family. But after your family, that money should go to the church. So.
Before you clarify something, because
Yeah.
you said you're hearing about people giving gift cards. You don't
know if somebody.
Oh no, I didn't mean that anyway. I'm talking about so like a lot of people will do that if they find out you're like impoverished. I'm not just talking like you can give gifts or whatever. I give gift cards. to
What
people.
if you don't know you know that they need things, but you don't know exactly what they need
Yeah,
because
that's-
they never told you. So you do a gift card so they can at least buy a couple $100 worth of groceries.
Yeah, that's great.
Free up the money.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's
Maybe
that.
if they do have other needs.
That's totally fine.
Now they're like, oh wow.
No. No, that's totally fine. I'm really talking about specific circumstances where Christians think that they've somehow they've dispensed their obligation to the poor or to a poor family or something in their church because they gave a gift card once or something. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, hey, don't give gift cards to Christians. Cash only. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not
you
saying.
gotta go ask them for their bills so you can pay it.
Right? No. That's fine. You can give whatever way you want and how much ever you want. I don't want Christians making excuses to not take care of one another because they did some marginal thing that doesn't actually take care of the person. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, again, imagine your children when they're small, and you're like, well, here, I fed you last week. What do you don't need anything else? I mean, maybe somebody else will give to you. I mean, obviously they're going to die. I mean, no one's taking. So to take care of someone is very different than to just hand them a gift. But handing them a gift could be part of a larger taking care of them. So I'm not saying, oh yeah, no gift cards.
What if I gave my stepmom the money?
Yeah,
She would make sure it didn't go to my brother.
yeah, it's up to you, Barb. You can literally, whatever way you think you are honoring and taking care of your dad, then do that. And if it's you think that the money is like going to go to your brother and your dad's going to get less of it, and that's dishonoring to him, then don't let that happen. You know, my only issue is I'm just trying to because we're just factories of excuses. I'm trying to get rid of all the excuses so that we're like, well, my dad gives to my brother, so really, I'm just going to hold this back. And you know what I mean?
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are just like, don't give dad money. It's
But I just know
straight to Robbie.
I just know myself, and I just know it's sort of like, well, and that's actually, if you read this chapter in Hebrew, God is like right on it. He knows that's what we're going to do. He's like, don't do it. I know you're going to do it. It's going to come time for you to give, and you're going to make excuses why you shouldn't give. You have good reasons why you don't give. Don't do that. Give what I tell you to give. So all I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it out of the way because I know if I knew my brother was getting the stuff I was giving to a parent, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to give it to my parent anymore. But I have to then counter that with the Bible and be like, okay, even though my reasoning and desire would be not to give, I'm still going to give it to my parent, and it's his problem that he gave it to my brother or whatever.
Kind of like with I know some Christians have their conversations about should we pay taxes because our taxes might go, which it probably does, abortion, things like that, funding all these wicked things. But
Yeah.
our responsibility is to obey that command, and what they do with it is on them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we have obligation to pay taxes to government. In reality, God considers taxes the government's part of your money, not your money. So why are the lights?
Why do you think?
So let me ask.
Huh?
What do you think?
Oh, is it time to go? Is that what's being huge?
No.
Oh.
Got you on book now.
Should I start it?
Yes.
Happy birthday to me. Those are only like 52 candles. Happy birthday to you. You look like a monkey and you smell like one too. All right.
Better be carnivore.
Oh yeah, blueberry muffin. Thank you. I do accept gift cards, by the way. Just,
So here's the question. If you're giving your parent this $100,
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were overwhelmed.